couple weeks ago at work, a customer came in not wearing a mask. So I've already set the expectation at my job that I won't be wearing a mask. So I approached him without a mask. And I asked him, hey, are you exempt? And he said, yep. So no problems there. But the situation drew some curiosity. So I was approached by some of my employees after, who asked me what the deal was with that. Like, did you know the guy? Are you buddies? Like, what's going on? I said, no, like, I had to educate them about the bylaw, about the exemption in the bylaw, what all that was. But their response to that was, oh, he's vaccinated. And I found that to be very interesting. And I'm going to show you why here. Just today, COVID-19 update with Justin Trudeau, June 18th, the live coverage of that. Here's a clip from that, and just listen to what he says.
75% vaccinated with the first dose, at least 20% vaccinated at the second dose before we can start loosening things up. Because even a fully vaccinated individual can pass on COVID-19 to someone who is not vaccinated. And that means we have to really make sure that not only people who are fully vaccinated can travel, but that the communities to which they will return are not at risk.
So, millions of people across Ontario have received their COVID-19 vaccine. Do your part, get your shot. Health Canada approved vaccines. So something to mention, if they lift the emergency restrictions associated with the pandemic, then the emergency use authorization of their vaccine becomes null and void. Keep that in mind. Approved until September, until the emergency order is done. So Health Canada approved vaccines are conveniently available at hospitals, doctors' offices, pharmacies, and mass vaccination sites. And every dose brings us closer to what we've missed. So touting the getting back to normal and a lot of other things too, like the benefits of getting the vaccine, the COVID pass. The programming is evident. Like his response to me saying that guy was exempt really tells you a lot, because that's people aren't even scratching the surface of this stuff, So here's something interesting, an article right beside the ad paid for by the government of Canada for the mass vaccination sites and everything. Also something to mention there. The Canadian government has internment camps for COVID. But it's not COVID. We know that. It's something else. The justification is COVID. So listen to this. It's the same with what you just heard with Justin Trudeau. The justification is COVID. So what's going on with the vaccine? Think about that. The city's economy. So this is Kingston, June 17th, yesterday, to follow up for today, is expected to come roaring back to life. Think about that. Interesting verbiage that they're using there. The city's economy is expected to come roaring back to life in the third quarter of this year. Interesting. Isn't that around the time that the emergency order is supposedly supposed to end? We also have here widespread vaccination and settling of the pandemic may well be contributing to an increase in employers planning to return to workplace-based working for the third quarter of 2021. Brought peace to fight the pandemic. So worldwide lockdowns, forced peace to almost. Emergency orders like the War Measures Act. You almost have people in a kind of bondage, right? Like you're putting them into a pressure cooker, essentially. We're going to talk about that in a second. So the people desired safety. Restrictions were put in place. Now they're easing those restrictions. So let's talk about that for a second. Because can you guess what happens next after that? There's a cycle going on here. And we briefly touched on the simulation in my first live stream from Carousel to Christ, where we talked about Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 9 to 10, which just basically tells you the history repeats. So if you look at 90 to 100-year cycles, it's a simulation being carried out upon the population. First, you start off with suffering, Let me move this. First, you start off with suffering, which leads to the release of suffering. So, how about a plandemic, which leads to the roaring 20s? So, the city's economy is expected to come roaring back to life as restrictions are being eased. So, people are going to seek pleasure. People are going to go rushing out, spend more, getting themselves into debt, which will bring a penalty. So what happens next? Well, we know that there's a simulation being carried out on the population. We know that there's a cycle happening. So what's the proof of that? Well, how about, like I said, a plandemic that leads to the Roaring 20s, that leads to the Great Depression? Looking at the 100-year cycle, a plandemic, another Roaring 20s to build up the confidence of people. So that's what we're going through now. To get you to pour your energy into things that don't necessarily matter. Don't buy into that. This is a big test right now. So people have been suffering and now they're going to go and seek pleasure. Don't fall for it. Don't buy into it. They will pull the rug out from under us, because the next step after that is a Great Depression. So we've gone from the plandemic into the ease of restrictions, an opening up of things. Ontario's open for business. People are spending more. People are getting into more debt. That doesn't help the economy. So there's a penalty there, or a sure word of prophecy, you might say, because it's like a pressure cooker. Just like in 1929, it has a release valves on it. So they've opened up the release valve. They are already talking about easing restrictions now, touting rewards and incentives with vaccine pass. It's all by design. Agenda 2030. We are living it right now. It's like the Crown 19 simulation. And that's what I have for you guys today. That's it. So gird up the loins of your minds for what's coming. Ask yourself, how much do I love the truth? Like I said before, in previous things, those videos aren't available anymore. I have many loved ones living in a simulation. And every time I've tried to wake them up over the years, they just take the easy way out. Don't fall for it this time. Don't take the easy way out. Wake up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.